What's up, guys? How's everybody doing? We are back on another On This Day in History where we discuss July 28th and today, July 29th. Everybody knows the drill that's been listening to these videos. Please like and subscribe if you like this kind of content, and let's get right into it. So, we're going to start with July 28th. So, on July 28th, 1794, Maximilien Robespierre and other leaders of the French Revolution were executed by the guillotine, ending the Reign of Terror. So this is during the time, obviously, in the French Revolution, the 1790s. And what I find is really interesting about this sort of history that's talked about, it happens right after the American Revolution. And if anybody is familiar with the American Revolution, it wasn't only the colonists and the British. We were actually getting help by the French. So if anybody's familiar with the French Alliance, that's what that is. It happened right after the Battle of Saratoga and the American Revolution. But that's another video to talk about. But this happens right after that, and us being in communications with the King of France during that time is really interesting because only 10 years later or so, the people want to overthrow the royal family pretty much in the country of France, and that's where the guillotine comes into place. It gets so violent that officials and leaders actually start to execute the French people with the guillotine. So the guillotine was this very graphic, very violent sort of equipment to do what in the French's mind had to be done. And at the end of all this, the French Revolution, the people get their revenge, so to speak, and leaders get executed by the guillotine themselves. And let's just say karma sucks. So that is pretty much, that's the case there. Now, on July 28th, 1868, the 14th Amendment was in effect in the U.S. Constitution, which allows citizenship, due process, and equal protection under law when it comes to African Americans, Black Americans, all that, and Caucasians and all that. Everybody is equal. The Declaration of Independence says so. That's what it should be. Everybody created equal, and this amendment really pushes that idea into reality, and this really helps give us what the world is and the United States is today. All men are created equal. That mindset right there. On July 28th, 1914, Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia, which officially sparked World War I. On July 28th, 1976, a massive 7.5 magnitude earthquake struck Tangshan, China. And if you don't know the levels of earthquake like rankings and stuff, that's a pretty destructive earthquake. I think if I understand it right, it's based on level of destruction, but I'm just thinking towards the tornado sort of grading there. So I'm assuming it's sort of similar for an earthquake, or pretty much. And yeah, just from that numerical data right there, 7.5. Massive earthquake. Really crazy. So we are back to the birthday side of things, and who was born on July 28th? Well, Beatrix Potter in 1866. She was an English author, best known for writing The Tale of Peter Rabbit, which eventually became a film, I believe 2018, I believe, and it was a really good film in my opinion. I don't know if anybody else liked it, but I thought it was really good. And if you haven't heard of Beatrix Potter, that is probably the best place you can go figure out who she is. Wrote the Tale of Peter Rabbit. On July 28th, 1929, Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis was born. You may know her as the First Lady of the United States of America. She was the wife of John F. Kennedy. And she was a First Lady at one point, from around 1960 to technically 1963, after the tragic assassination of her husband. So, and Jim Davis in 1945 was born. He was an American cartoonist, best known for writing the comic strip of Garfield, which became a movie comedic success there, a cartoon as well. And in 1954, Hugo Chavez, a military officer, and was the president of Venezuela. So those are the birthdays for July 28th, and it'll about wrap it up for that day. Now we go into today. What happened today in history, and that'll set us up real nice for tomorrow when we stop doing the combo packages and just a single day basis on July 30th, all of that. So what happened today on July 29th? In 1958, President Dwight D. Eisenhower signed the legislation creating NASA, which was obviously a very big deal. All right, now this is the same organization that provided the first moon landing ever, and so many other scientific discoveries and scientific understanding of how we are today in this world, understanding the scientific knowledge that we do. What we learn in schools at this point was obviously different from back then, because we didn't understand things at the level of scientific understanding that we do today, especially with space. And this is what NASA is pretty much for. So that is a very big move in history. It happened on July 29th. So on July 29th, 1981, Prince Charles and Lady Diana Spencer married at St. Paul's Cathedral in London, England. July 29th, 1954, J.R.R. Tolkien published The Fellowship of the Ring. Pretty big deal there. July 29th, 1836, the Arc de Triomphe was inaugurated in Paris. So kind of an interesting and good variety of historical events that happened on this day. Not too much of this, not too much of that, if you get what I'm saying. Different topics and historical value. Really, really good variety for today happened in history. Now let's discuss the birthdays. So, Peter Jennings was born on July 29th, 1938. He was a Canadian-born American journalist. July 29th, 1973, Ken Burns was born, American documentary filmmaker. And on the exact same day, in 1973, Geddy Lee was born, a Canadian musician that was the singer for the band Rush. So there you have it for those days in history. So, a lot of variety today, especially when it comes to talking about the French Revolution from July 28th perspective, and getting to the point where we're talking about the marriage of royalty when Prince Charles and Lady Diana married at St. Paul's Cathedral in London, England. And you get the signed legislation that created NASA from President Dwight D. Eisenhower. Speaking of Eisenhower, we're going to talk about a movie on this channel probably tomorrow, probably after I grade and discuss The Odyssey. You've already seen the report card for that if you've seen my YouTube short. Give you more detail on that fun stuff there. That's coming up as well. But before we discuss this new movie, I'd like to talk about, because it hasn't had a theatrical version. It went straight to Peacock, but really insane movie. I recommend you watching it. But first, we have to again appreciate these events that have shaped what our world looks like today. Especially events where people learn from those type of events, and on a behavioral level, how people react to stuff today as well, especially when it comes to things like a natural disaster. So July 28th, 1976, when a massive 7.5 magnitude earthquake struck in Tongxing, China, really has an effect on people, and it really helps us recover and shape how people react to things in this world today, because things evolve, people and things evolve, and that's what's so great about history. We have a continuous evolving pattern when it comes to this world. All right, you learn something and you learn from it, and then you start getting better and better through that continuous process. And I kind of said this when I was recapping and grading the Young Washington movie. George Washington, one of his greatest things about him is what he wasn't this perfect individual. He wasn't the greatest military general at all. But he was such a great leader, and he learned from his mistakes. That's what made him so great. That's what makes him the most, probably, if not the most, one of the most decorated and appreciated people in American history. And it's just by learning from mistakes, being that great leader. People evolve. History that's what's great. We evolve from these processes, especially from these unique and variety-based stuff that especially today we talked about. I just want people to realize how appreciative people should be from understanding things at a historical value. So thank you. I appreciate you listening to this version of the On This Day in History. Tomorrow we will get back into things at a normal level where we'll be discussing July 30th on the actual day. No more combo packages. At some point there's going to be more, because I got school coming up and all that, so combo packages will be a reality. But at this point, day-to-day is what the mindset is. I'll try to be. Now, that movie that I will discuss and grade on this channel. So before I announce the report card for that movie, if I don't say anything before, people might be confused because hasn't had a theatrical basis. It's not in theaters. It was never in theaters. It went straight to Peacock. It was those kind of movies, Peacock original sort of deal. And this is a historical movie, history movie. Before you go and watch it, there is some language, but that's about it. War violence and all that. So this movie is called Pressure. Pressure is on Peacock. It is about Dwight D. Eisenhower and his decision to postpone D-Day in World War II on Normandy Beach in France from July 5th to July 6th of 1945. 1944 and 1945. And the reason he postpones this, trying not to give as much spoilers as possible, but meteorology comes into place, and it's a very interesting watch. It's a very positive and positively interesting watch. Great movie. The foundation of it is really brought out well. Great actor support. It really gives us an understanding of how important Captain James Stagg of England, meteorologist, wink wink, boom, how important he was when it came to our success in D-Day as a United States military. And it also brings out some character value in our own American meteorologist and Dwight D. Eisenhower himself in his military days before he was the president in the 50s era. And yeah, very interesting watch. We'll be doing that after discussing the Odyssey, either bringing that out tonight after this video uploads or tomorrow morning. Very excited to talk about the Odyssey. If you've seen my report card, obviously I'm very high on the movie, probably one of the highest grades I'll ever give on a movie. I'm not gonna lie, already I'm saying it now, probably a top 10 movie that I've ever seen, and I am not being biased at all. It is just generally a great film to watch, so be on the alert for that. Thank you for listening and watching to this. Please like, comment, and subscribe to the 208 Breakdown. Be sure to check out my podcast, now exclusively on YouTube. Probably will be uploading on that platform basis pretty soon. Podcast about Western Idaho sports, SRV conference, and where I play sports at. I play football and baseball, etc. So be on the alert for that as well. Thank you so much for watching, and have a good night.